I'm going to say that outside pipe is going to be out by the end.
I can never judge that corner, so I would not give advice to anybody yet on that. Like that corner on every layout, I suck at. Like
because you blow it and go wide, or what?
I just can't tell where the pipe is ever there. That
where
whole
the
section.
yellow thing is.
Yeah, I know, but from mostly where I stand on the stand, I always play it super safe in that corner, and that's always my slowest section.
Well, we're gonna fix that.
Thank you. Thank you.
No fixing it.
All right, so obviously straightaway is pretty simple, self-explanatory. The one thing with the straightaway, obviously with it being a kind of tighter 90 at the end of the straightaway, you're going to want to kind of bleed out towards the end of the straightaway to make sure that this corner is not as tight. If you come down the inside of the straightaway, it makes it tight. Then you're going to want to push out into the outside and possibly hit the outside pipe. So again, kind of setting up wide so you can slow down early. You don't even necessarily need to use brakes, but just roll off the throttle to be able to roll back on. And off-road with the grip level, you just want to try to make sure you're not breaking traction. So too much brake, too much throttle, either of those things can make it break traction.
At what point do you have the throttle coming off the screw?
So it's going to depend on the grip level. So like as the grip is lower, you're going to let off earlier. As the grip comes up, you're going to be able to drive harder into the corner. And as long as, like right now, there's basically no groove or no line. So the grip level is going to be the same wherever you're at on the track. You're going to have to slow down earlier. Once the grip comes up and there's a groove, the biggest thing is going to be making sure you stay in that groove. Because if you hit the dust, you go from tons of traction to zero traction. But you will be able to drive it into the corner longer once the grip level. So the off-road, I mean, you're constantly chasing and battling the grip level. Obviously, as the grip comes up, you can drive harder, you can use more throttle, use more brakes. But when the track is green, really kind of focusing on rolling off the throttle, rolling back on the throttle, continuing to carry your momentum, not being really choppy. If you have too much brake and you're locking up, coming to almost a stop and then having to take off, it's going to seem like the track's even looser than what it actually is. So with this double, same thing, just like kind of with the straightaway, you're wanting to make sure you open up your entry so that entering the turn, it's not as tight and you don't get pinched off. So if you kind of come over the double 3/4 towards the outside, obviously as the track is running and the groove comes up, there's going to always be dust on the outside, so you're not going to want to be all the way along the outside. There's going to be no grip there. So if you can be on the outer edge of what the groove ends up being, it then allows you to make this corner not as tight. Same thing as a straightaway. If you land this jump right here, this corner ends up being way tighter. If you land more towards the middle, so you're starting at 3/4 the outside, land to the middle, it makes this just a lot more fluid. This is where, like for you, Frank, like if you jump and you land way out wide, you're in the dust, you go super wide. If you land super tight on the inside, you're probably going to turn in too tight on the inside. So it's making sure everything links together. If you blow the end of the straightaway, it's going to make it harder to hit this corner. So if you, even though this has been your problem area, it could be caused from the previous section. So making sure that, especially once the track's run in and there's going to be dust on the inside, dust on the outside, the middle is going to be where the grip's at. If you have to slow down a little bit to make sure you're landing in the proper spot, it's going to make this next section a lot easier. And ultimately, slow is fast. Like if you get to where you're comfortable hitting the proper line and being in the groove, you'll build confidence, and then you can just slowly start to do that section a little bit quicker, But if in your head you're always like, man, I blow that section, and you try too hard, you're probably gonna have a problem with it. But if you can make this corner super tight, it's gonna make this a straight shot. If you blow the turn and you're way out here, not only do you slow yourself down in this corner, you slow yourself down in that corner. You then probably rush it, and you go too wide, which ends up being too tight in the next corner. So again, if you can go slow, hit your mark, it's a straight shot.
Rohan Grand.
And then for here, because the next triple is going to be pretty difficult to jump, same thing. You want to make sure you don't pinch yourself off in the next turn. If you can accelerate tight, and then start your it's going to be really So it's going to be really critical here that you carry your momentum to be able to do the triple, because the second and third jump of the triple, there's not much of a transition in between those two jumps. In my opinion, this is only a triple. There is no other option. If you have to go super wide to make sure you triple, that's what you've got to do. But it all starts from this back straightaway. Again, if you go super tight along the pipe, slam the brakes on, you almost come to a dead stop in the turn, you don't have the momentum to do the triple. If you accelerate
Rohan Grand
inside of that turn,
118.7.
share your momentum through here, it's going to just help get you over the triple. With him getting over the triple that easy, as long as this doesn't get bumpy, when the grip comes up, I think this is going to be super easy to get over. But again, even if you have to go a couple feet wide, it's better than trying to land in this dip. If you crash, have to be Marshall. The Marshall has a blind spot. So you just got to be mindful of those things to make sure in some areas of the track, you may have to give up what you think is a couple tenths to eliminate a crash, to eliminate a bad Marshall, to make sure you get over the
Rohan Grand 1, 0.3.
To get what?
To have the traction to come back out there.
Correct, yeah.
If you spin the tires up too hard, you can just
Yeah.
Or if it gets really bumpy, like you
Yep.
said.
Yeah. And it's a little bit blind because of the size of the jump, so you're wanting to make sure you round the corner, you square up, and then you're able to just squeeze the throttle. Sometimes you may have way more than enough power, especially with the guys running like e-buggy or e-truck, but if you just light the tires up all the way up the face, it's going to be hard to jump. If you're able to just squeeze the throttle and put the kind of traction to the ground, it's going to be easier to jump. Watch what's on there. Watch the,
Where do you want to hit it? Like anywhere like
so I'm going to want to hit it. Again, you're always wanting to kind of set up middle to slightly outside to then give you the takeoff on the inside, or like inner third, to where then you're making it a straight shot to land to the inside here. Like this corner, you want to be super tight on because it's not as tight. Your car landing right on the inside, you're not pinching yourself off because you have a 8-foot section here to be able to hug the pipe. And then again, like going into the next turn, it's almost, you're accelerating out almost a straight shot to the next turn. So like with over there, I'm accelerating more at this angle. Here you're wanting to accelerate almost straight to the next turn. Because the next turn to follow, even if you're pinched off, it doesn't matter because you want to be pinched off in the next turn.
You kind of want to hit these almost across the track.
Yeah.
On this side.
I mean, obviously you want to be kind of squared up to the jump, but yeah, you're basically, in this section, you're going straight from inside to inside. It's going to be the shortest distance, because this corner you're able to just carry a nice arc through it. I think these should be pretty easy, just double. The only thing with this is going to be to make sure you don't over jump the first one too much, where you land and you get unsettled for the next one. You can use the downside, you should be able to accelerate and basically just coast off the face of this second level.
Do you think if you go wide enough, this is triple that?
The problem with tripling though is, again, the landing and the transition,
Not consistent.
it's literally, it's built to only work one way. Like, even if you are able to triple it, what you gain by tripling it, you're gonna lose by running into this wall.
And probably lose by going wide.
Yeah, so if it was built to where it had more of a downside and this wasn't so steep, it would be worth attempting. But to me, it's built to only work one way. Same thing with him. You could see where Rohan, his line, he went straight, set up a little bit wide to be able to carry his arc for the next double.
Hell of a line.
So this is good for right now when the track is loose. That line is going to, I think, change a little bit as the grip comes up. You're going to be able to do more of a straight shot, and you're going to have the grip to be able to accelerate that next double. But right now, because the grip is a little bit lower, like, he's got a really nice, consistent line.
Nice line, Rohan. We're dissecting your line. You got a nice line, he said through here. Yeah. Drake approved.
So in here, the big thing is going to be just not carrying this arc and jumping way out wide, because then you end up landing in the dust, and also you just make the track a lot longer. So
That's the front straight.
yeah, you don't want to go backwards down the front straight. So if you can really square up to the face of this jump, you can round the corner and be squared up to be able to land, you know, in the middle of the lane.
What I want to do, because the thing that knows from here, I got me from here.
So in here, like, we have a little mogul section.
Well, you changed it up.
They're actually, like, they're built super nice and rolled really nice. I think what you'll probably end up doing is being super tight, kind of hitting this first one on the inside, and then actually doubling the last two. Like with the way Rohan went, he kind of went through, hit almost like 4 of them. The car's dancing around. What I think is going to be the line is just basically just skip off this one and then double into the corner. Less chance of the car hitting all the different ones and getting upset.
So Adam, from that one to that landing, is that what you're saying?
So like right where Rohan's at, this is like you'll hit just that outer corner, which isn't going to do much of anything.
You're going to be able to do that.
And then make sure that the whole car hits this one to jump past this last one. Because otherwise you end up hitting 4 of them, you know, left side, and more chance of the car just getting upset.
Do you think if you friggin' get it nice and go straight through there, that would be his best?
The things I know, I try that, because that's what I was doing. I try that. This one is the best. The best one is like you come on the outside, you just barely touch that one, and pop over this.
Yeah, like if one of these gets rough, like if guys are hitting the first one and nosing into the second one, and it gets rough,
That's the second best
then
option.
this would probably be the option that we go to. But right now, just a straight shot and being able, because basically you're only going to end up touching part of that first one and then the second one. This one you're just going to jump right over. So
That the first one probably doesn't have enough lift to double into,
No,
right? And then plus
You don't have enough. You don't have enough. That one, this one.
again, tight line, stay tight, and then just kind of bleed out to again, opening up your entry to be able to turn in. Because especially for this next section, it's kind of like, you know, basically an on-road section. So you want to drive it like you would an on-road car. If you come tight along the pipe here and you make your turn, then you're going to naturally bleed out and make yourself tighten that turn, bleed out. So if you can set it all up, this is the most critical turn, that if you set this turn up correct, it's going to make these next two turns much easier. So if you set up a little wide, open your entry, carry your momentum through to where you can exit tight, it's going to naturally make you already have your entry opened up to be able to carry more speed.
This turn here, you want to kind of run tight, because I noticed if you're coming up here, it looks like you might get light on your tires.
Yeah, so you want to start the entry wide to make the apex tight.
Here, okay.
Yeah. So on a turn like this, right? They always say you want to brake when you're going straight. Normally, I try to practice that. When it's something where you're curving, right? Where would, if you had to hit the brakes, where would you hit it? There, while you're straight still on a turn like this?
I mean,
mid-corner.
Yes, you're not perfectly straight, but I would still be braking probably back here in this area to slow the car down, to make sure you carry the proper speed.
Almost like
through the
you can
apex.
just roll them off.
Yeah, I think, with it being the hill, you'll probably, for the most part, be able to just kind of roll off, roll back on. Down here, obviously, you'll have to brake for sure.
On times when you brake and then coast, or as soon as you brake, you like get on the throttle?
No, it just depends on the turn. A lot of times you'll brake, then coast. Kind of depends on the grip level. Yeah.
I noticed this here has got like this here too.
Yeah, so here you just want to make sure you don't, if you bleed out to here, then this is super tight and you got to crawl around the turn, especially with it being off camber. So if you accelerate out of that turn, like where Rohan's tracks are, and then you're able to start your turn here, it's going to make this all just one super nice arc. But if you just move over 3 feet, now you run into possibly going straight out into the outside pipe, especially with it being off camera. So again,
Here you want to be what about 2 foot off that one, right? Kind of just keep this one big basic one corner.
Yep, yeah, you'll want to be tight, kind of bleed out, and then again make this a straight shot.
You can basically pretend that you're dead.
Correct. Yeah, you don't. It's almost like this pipe should be flipped. That's going to be the line that you follow, but in order to make it, you know, the 12 foot, that's the shape of it. But you need to go off. Basically, the apex is not the way the pipe. Like, as far as I'm concerned, this pipe could be zigzag there. It doesn't matter. The line you're taking is based off this inside and that inside.
You're watching the zigzag, this gets you crazy. Like watch down to see if you look at that apex over there, this apex is straight.
And again, same thing. Like this layout's super cool because there's so many turns that it's a right left. So again, if you blow the first right, it forces you to almost blow the next left. So again, if you slow down, you hit the inside there, it's a straight shot. If you blow it and go wide, now this is like way more of a turn than what it's going to be. So again, slow is fast. Slowing down, hitting the proper line versus hitting the throttle. You know, like especially when the track is green and dusty. But even when the track gets clean, like the grip is going to be better as long as you're on the right line. If you miss that by 2 feet, now you're in the dust, and there's not much recovering from that unless you just slow way down, ease your way back into the.
I got a question. Typically, in an event, even with larger events, how wide is that groove? Typically, like 2 foot, 3 foot wide. It depends on racers, or.
Yeah, I mean, the preferred line is usually pretty narrow. You know, like even though the groove may be 2-3 feet, 1 foot can make a big difference.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason why Mayfield's as successful as he is. I mean,
It's his mark.
he chooses the proper lines, and he hits them lap after lap after lap, especially like as the track gets more and more blown out. Like you'll watch Ryan take some kind of weird or unorthodox lines, but he's either doing it to miss holes, or he's doing it because it's just the preferred line that sets him up right for the next turn. Where when other guys try that, they may like hit it once or twice and oh that's good, and then miss it by 6 inches and fly off the track, and then they'll just go back to what was the safe line.
I watched that one race where they had, in that, I don't remember which one it was an indoor track.
Silver State?
It might have been where I noticed he was running, coming up off the corner on the right and coming down. He was always running right next to the pipes where they had all the moguls. And one time he was in like a foot, just the track width, and it upset him.
Yeah.
It upset his truck. And then I noticed the next lap he just went to the outside, went to the outside, went to the outside. And then other drivers actually started following his line.
Yeah, I mean, people all, they'll be like, oh, his car just handles awesome, which obviously his car does work well. But you move 1 foot, and the car doesn't work as good now. So it's, I had that just recently, actually, a friend of mine, Miguel, he was like, there's something different with your shocks. Like, your car just goes through the bumps. I'm like, Miguel, I'm just missing them. I said, I watch you drive through the same damn hole lap after lap. Like, it may only be 6 inches a foot different, but sometimes that's a huge difference. So again, the line may be 3 feet for the groove, but again, 6 inches to a foot could be the difference between your car bottoming out and bucking, or going through it and looking like there's no bump there.
How long does it take for like you and Ryan Mayfield and stuff when you're on a layout to like learn the line?
A few tanks.
Yeah, I mean it's usually fairly quick. I mean, obviously, like you look at or you walk the track and you kind of the line you want to take or you think is going to be the best. Like for a track like this where everything is like super smooth, you pretty much know the line. It's just now a matter of hitting your mark, so it's fairly quick. If it's a track like DNC or Silver State, you're walking the track, you're looking, you think this is the right line, but the track is so jacked up everywhere that until you do a couple laps, you don't really know how your car is going to react, hitting that bump. So sometimes, it can take a little bit, but in racing, you don't really have a whole lot of time. You got to figure it out pretty quick.
On those big tracks, you don't have problems with like the depth perception on some of those corners?
Yeah, sometimes. But it's, hey, it's the same for all of us. So, yeah.
That's a good job.
Yeah, for me, it's super important. Like, I always try to walk the track. I try to walk the track every day. So, like, in the morning, whether I'm having to marshal early or even if it's just, talking to Rohan, like, I'm not just talking to Rohan. I'm also walking the track, looking to see if there's anything that's changed. Here, again, I don't really anticipate like a ton of like changes as far as the bumps, but there will be changes in the surface. As the track starts to dry out and get the lighter color and cars run on it, the grip's gonna come up. So it's not always that you're looking to necessarily change your line. You may be walking the track, looking at it to see if you need to change compound or if you need to change tread pattern. But at races like DNC, Silver State, where there's so many entries and the track changes, you sit in your pit for 4 hours and you go up for your next qualifier and you're like, I can't even go around the track. It's completely different. It's important to watch races and also try to walk the track. If during racing you can't walk the track, at least walk the perimeter. Again, depends on the track. Here I don't think it's going to be as critical, but some of the races it can be so critical, especially when some of these races you get basically no warm-up. Like Silver State, DNC, PMB, all those races, you leave pit lane, and when you complete your first lap, you're on the track. You're on the clock. So it's super, super important to walk it.
Is it typically tracks with bigger jumps and stuff usually get clear off worse?
No, it's more the surface and how how that dirt is compacted. It's not necessarily, sometimes it can be if a lot of guys crash, shock towers dig in, it gets rough, but usually it's the type of the dirt and how that dirt is packed for how well the track will.
How bad it gets filled up or
Yeah, other than that, I mean, that pretty much completes the lap. Obviously, come on the straightaway, again, holding a tight line, start to bleed out, because again, you're always kind of thinking the next turn or a turn ahead. If, again, you come down the straightaway and you're just hugging the pipe and you're thinking, man, my engine sounds good, everything's good, then you get to the end of the straightaway and you're like, oh shit, this turn's way tighter than what it was the last lap. Yeah, so you're always trying to think ahead and set up kind of, for the next turn or couple of turns.
So what tires did you start off on right now?
So
Reflex?
I'm going to start on green reflex.
Yeah.
Either green reflex or green stalker. I think, I don't think I have stalkers mounted, so I'll start on green reflex for all three.
What is that pro line?
Pro line would probably be like an M3 hole shot. Yep. What is it, the Amazon or something like that? Is that the...
Bangkok V2.
No.
Bangkok.
Yep, like a Bangkok.
Super soft?
Probably super soft to start.
In J Concepts, you said you're going green?
Yep.
What's softer, green or blue?
Green is softer.
Green's your softest?
No, black is the softest.
Oh, but you
So
don't
we
really...
almost got one.
So you said blue reflex. That's
Green to start,
okay, green.
and then we'll go to blue. So again, like,
But then you said M3, which is soft, basically. So that compound's a little bit different than the compounds with J.
yeah, all of them are a little different, but I would say like J Concepts Green is the closest to Proline M3, because like a J Concepts Black would be closest to like a Proline M4. So like the J Concepts Ultra Soft is like a Proline Super Soft.
So, you know how on the setup sheets or whatever, when they're picking their tires, they say, oh, the track was so-and-so. How would you describe this?
Like right now?
Yeah, like, is this a dusty surface to you?
It's not, but once a couple cars run on it, it's going to get, because I mean, you can see just a couple laps Rohan did.
Yeah.
The track's going to get really dusty at first because it's going to kind of wear off this top layer. I mean, right now, yeah, there's no dust, but no cars have run on it. Like if Rohan were to water it again to where the whole track had that darker color, you would just run a super soft basically all the time. Tire wear would be easy, but it's too hard to keep the track wet, especially when it's 90 degrees out. So it's going to go through a phase of it's damp and everything is good, the groove is super wide, to really dusty, no grip, and then it'll blow it off, and then that groove will start to come in and the grip will actually get higher than what it would be if it was wet the whole time.
So like a J Concepts Cosmos, that's for like when it's super blown out and dusty?
Yeah, yeah, just
So
a big,
go reflex, stalker, and then if it's disaster, Cosmos.
What's the difference between the reflex and the stalker? They look very similar.
Yeah, so they have similar like kind of tread layouts, but a stalker is a little bit bigger pin. So normally a stalker will cut the dust a little bit better. So if there's more dust, little rocks, stuff like that, you would run a stalker. And then as the track kind of gets clean, you would go to a reflex. Usually a reflex is a little more precise, a little bit faster tire, but a stalker a lot of times is like a nicer, more comfortable tire to drive.
What about impacts? That would be the...
So that would be like kind of along the lines of a Cosmos. So like when the track has a lot of dust, and or if maybe the track has a clean groove but outside the line is dusty and you just struggle to hit the line, an impact might be good all the time for you. The Cosmos might be good all the time for you. So it's, if you're able to hit the line, as the line gets cleaner, you go to a smaller pin, it's usually faster. But if you struggle to hit the line, you're going to want a little bit bigger pin so that you're going in and out of the dust.
The ellipse is when there's like no dust at all.
Yeah.